For my presentation, I'm going to be focusing on the corruption of FIFA through globalization, and more specifically, the focus of corruption of FIFA in Europe. To start off, knowing about FIFA and the corruption, you got to look at the founding of FIFA. FIFA's founding and corruption was able to exist in Europe because they turned a blind eye to the corruption. Specifically in Switzerland, they had years of evidence against FIFA, but turned a blind eye against them because of the global money that FIFA brought to Europe and specifically Switzerland as a country. And even as recently as 1984, Europe was a relatively unknown entity. So in FIFA's early days, they were founded on May 21st, 1904 in Paris. They started out as an extremely small entity and sought to go global, first starting out with a small European community. In 1921, the president of FIFA proposes a World Cup, a tournament, a global tournament of football. But there was already a competition tournament in the Olympics. The International Olympic Committee sought to prevent the organization of a second soccer tournament. As a compromise, the IOC allowed FIFA to organize the soccer tournament for the Olympics itself. In 1930, the first independent tournament is created, and the tournament is held in Uruguay. Because of the far distance that Uruguay is, and because there is no airplane travel at the time, only 4 European teams can afford to make the journey to Uruguay. In 1932, the president of FIFA, Jules Rimet, makes the decision to make FIFA's headquarters in Zurich. In the 1960s and 70s, nations that became free sought to join FIFA before they joined the UN, showing the powerful nature of FIFA and what membership in FIFA meant for a nation. And in the 1970s, Brazil is the best team in the world, but it's still led by Europeans. This would soon change, however, with the expansion of FIFA. In 1961, Englishman Stanley Rouse is elected to the president of FIFA and believes in the superiority of European football. In 1974, João Havelange, a Brazilian, is elected to be president of FIFA. In order to win this election, he paid the dues of 14 African nations to FIFA who had not paid their dues yet and won their votes. The beginning of corruption of FIFA. So the beginning of corruption of FIFA start with João Havelange when he went to Moscow to win over the vote of the Soviet Union and the block of their votes to make him president. He gave the Soviet representatives to FIFA their wives' gifts. The Soviet delegation leader guaranteed that Zhao would receive the votes of the Soviet bloc in exchange for the 1980 Olympics being held in Moscow. Stanley Rouse, who was up against João Havelange at the time, thought of himself as elected already and aligned himself personally with Horst Dassler, the founder of Adidas, who would then pay FIFA sponsorship money and give FIFA brand new equipment. The massive explosion of corruption. So by the time Rouse and Dorsler try to make an alliance, it's too late and Havelange wins. With this election, television becomes the new largest medium for FIFA. Television delivers FIFA to billions, and this makes FIFA rich overnight. The new president decides to make individual TV channels pay to broadcast the matches. The value of TV rights skyrocketed, and the other ways of making money with the image, mascot, advertising, sponsoring. And he is responsible for making FIFA the billion-dollar entity that it is. FIFA globalizes its business and television rights, and it becomes its primary source of income. On top of this, João Havelange sought to bring in sponsors who were always seeking for more visibility to their brand. Havelange wanted to approach what was already the world's largest brand in the world, what was already the largest brand in the world, Coca-Cola. In 1976, Coca-Cola becomes a sponsor of FIFA for $6 million. Um, Thanks to new media, Adidas grew to new heights with the help of FIFA. The head of Adidas, who had previously supported Stanley Rouse for president of FIFA, being a pragmatic man, immediately pledged his allegiance to João Havelange after his election. As a result, Adidas becomes a global brand with FIFA. For 10 years, there was a simple handshake agreement between Adidas and Havelange for the exclusive rights to sponsorship, making it impossible to know how much money João Havelange was making from Adidas. In 1982, Dassler founded the company ISL in Switzerland to become an intermediary selling TV rights to the World Cups. ISL would buy the rights to the World Cups and then sell them to individual channels at an extreme markup. And with ISL being a friend of Havelange, there is no competition for TV rights distribution. And this business attracts other businesses around the world. The American company IMG proposed 2 billion Swiss francs and 1 billion per World Cup afterwards to deal the TV rights for the World Cups. But ISL, being a friend of Havelange in FIFA, they did not respond to this extremely attractive financial proposal, and FIFA ignored it. A few years later, however, IMG came in with an even higher offer for the World Cup rights, too high an offer for FIFA to even reject. So they were forced to go to their friends at ISL to warn them and allow ISL to come in with a comparable offer. And thus, Havelange made sure that TV rights were exclusively ISL territory. IMG's philosophy was simply to pay the most money for the TV rights, but FIFA wasn't interested in that. They never opened the market because ISL paid money to FIFA for the TV rights. To win and retain those TV rights, ISL paid bribes to FIFA officials. And it is even believed Adidas founded ISL just to have FIFA in their complete control. Eventually, FIFA got out of the management of TV rights. Thus, Havelange ruled FIFA with an iron fist. In order to do this, though, he needed a confidant, and he chose Swiss national Joseph Sepp Blatter, who had gotten his start at Adidas, and thus earned him his job at FIFA. In 1994, however, Blatter tried to stab his mentor in the back and unseat him for the presidency. Blatter tried to get the UEFA to back him over Havelange, but they did not. Havelange couldn't fire Blatter, though, because he knew all the secrets of the corruption and fired two other people to cover up the corruption. Then they came up with a deal for Blatter to be elected as Havelange's successor in 1998. And Havelange announces his retirement in 1996. In the election of 1998, former player Michel Platini attempts to run against Blatter for president, but Blatter convinces Platini to instead be his number two and delay his run for president. Blatter relies on the African federations and launders money to these nations through the Goal project of FIFA. The Goal program promised $1 million to each nation that signed up for the program. With his victory uncertain against the president of the UEFA, however, Blatter sought to buy his election even further and sent associates to a Paris hotel in the middle of the night, where many of the African nations were housed, and there had been bribes paid to these African nations to ensure Blatter's victories. Following the election, Platini was then hired as personal advisor for 1 million francs. Blatter raises the prices of its television rights overnight with the election of Sepp Blatter as president. In 2002, World Cup television rights bring in 1.6 billion francs alone, and Blatter keeps his promise to distribute money to national federations. He institutes a seemingly successful development program, but in reality it is far from that. For example, FIFA gave money to a federation to build training facilities, but many of these facilities have never been completed. These projects launched by FIFA are rarely completed or even succeed. FIFA falsifies the audits that they conduct of these projects. Because each nation has one vote, Blatter keeps these projects going to ensure his re-election. In 2002, an international report implicates Blatter in corruption, and Blatter's resignation is requested. He, however, refuses, and Blatter is angry at FIFA executive Michel Ruffinen, who Blatter sees as a son, who had disclosed secrets about FIFA. At the next FIFA conference, a month later, and despite these corruption charges, Blatter is re-elected thanks to the support that he has bought from the African nations, and then takes measures to protect the family secrets that Ruffinen exposed and fires him, and the report of corruption is buried. Fired employees from Blatter's FIFA seek appeal from Switzerland, but are immediately shut down because of the economic power FIFA has in Switzerland. Wherever Blatter goes in the world, he receives great fanfare from heads of states. When rewarding a World Cup competition, FIFA has its standards. When a country wants to host a World Cup, FIFA insists that all money flow freely so that they can import their merchandise without tax, and that visas be given to all participants. FIFA is the only organization in the world that can suspend a nation's rule of law. Because with a World Cup, FIFA creates activity and wealth. Because of this, countries are often desperate to host World Cups. In the last 25 years, the awards process has been questioned, and bribes have been paid almost every time, including in 1998 in France, 2006 in Germany, and almost every other World Cup awards after that has been suspect. In 2010, South Africa is selected to be the host of the World Cup, and Blatter is thrilled. Behind the scenes of the selection, South Africa bought the selection for $10 million. South Africa gave the president of the CONCACAF, who controls all of North, South America, and Caribbean football, $10 million to cast all the votes for South Africa in the selection process. The president of CONCACAF came to the head of the second place country in the selection, Morocco, before the vote, being asked to be paid for his votes. Morocco gave CONCACAF president $1 million, but South Africa came in at the last minute with $10 million, and CONCACAF's votes went to South Africa. South Africa then sent the money to CONCACAF through the Secretary General of FIFA, meaning that Sepp Blatter had to know about it. In 2010, it was announced that Qatar would host the 2022 World Cup, and at this point it had become blatantly obvious that money had been paid to Sepp Blatter to select Qatar as the host. On paper, Qatar had no chance of winning candidacy. They lacked infrastructure and a proper human rights record. Not to mention, it is too hot in the summer in Qatar to play soccer. Harold May Nichols, who is in charge of rating each bidding nation of the strength of the nation to host a World Cup, gave Qatar the worst rating possible. Despite this, FIFA still selected Qatar to host the World Cup in 2022. 6 months after the committee vote, it comes out that the Qatari on the voting committee was given $5 million to buy the votes of several other executive committee members. FIFA, however, removes this Qatari member for his actions. Despite this removal, the selection of Qatar is not affected or changed whatsoever. Finally, crackdown on corruption comes to FIFA. In 2011, Blatter is re-elected once again and pretends he is only finding out about FIFA's corruption problems that are coming out. But this time the pressure is too strong, and Blatter can no longer cover up the corruption inside FIFA. In order to save face and make it seem like he is cleaning up corruption, he calls in former U.S. Attorney Michael Garcia to investigate. Officially, Garcia has the authority to investigate the selections of Russia in Qatar World Cups in 2018 and 2022, respectively. But in reality, the means of action for Michael Garcia were extremely limited and confined to people who worked in football and not even consultants who had worked on the World Cup bids. Some countries, such as Spain, Portugal, and Russia, did not cooperate in the investigation at all, and Qatar had given him very limited information. The Russians wouldn't even let Michael Garcia to go to Russia to investigate. Despite this, he makes an investigative report about corruption that he would like to make public. However, though, a Swiss judge simply summarizes the legal document and releases a carefully edited summary. Garcia felt that this summary that was released did not accurately portray what was in his report, and the willingness for FIFA to change is an illusion. FIFA's legal troubles began in the US with the FBI. In 2011, the FBI began investigating the Secretary of CONCACAF, Chuck Blazer. He is a high-ranking executive in FIFA and is known for his lavish lifestyle. He mixes his accounts with those of CONCACAF and has his extravagant lifestyle covered by them, and he even launders his money tax-free from FIFA. This tips off the IRS and FBI. Once the FBI gets him, he is convinced to wear a wire during all his encounters with FIFA executives. The FBI then recovers thousands of documents and finds FIFA's money trail. It turns out that FIFA is using U.S. banks to elicit its illegal deals. In 2011, the U.S. hopes to win the 2020 bid for the World Cup, but loses to Qatar despite being a much better candidate. The U.S. then has enough evidence to force Swiss courts to cooperate with the investigation and send Swiss authorities to arrest the 7 executive directors of FIFA. It is believed since 1991 that $150 million of money has been pocketed by FIFA leaders. Sepp Blatter is then arrested in Switzerland for mismanagement of money and a breach of trust. It is my belief that this large-scale globalization of football, and because of this, the large amount of money that has been made, was just simply too tempting for many FIFA leaders, including that of Sepp Blatter, to resist making enough money for themselves, and led to the overall corruption of FIFA as an organization.